How's it going, guys? It's Mr. Lo4f, and today I just wanted to do a bit more mission gameplay. It's a bit more of a chilled video. I wanted to test this thing out because I'm going to review this very soon. I've still got this to review. I've got the Fleet Star, the Trans Star, the Steptoe, the Khan Marshal, the TUZ-166. I've still got plenty of them to do. But yeah, I'd like to do this one pretty soon. I was using it yesterday in the tree test. I've been using it kind of last night and earlier, and yeah, I just wanted to give it a bit more of a little test run before I review it, just so I sort of get more used to it. I tried it, I mean, it's got to be a good couple of months ago now, and obviously it had the problem where, like, it's got like a big skid plate under the front nose, but that was catching on everything, and yeah, that's kind of part of the reason I wanted to test it out for myself. But I also wanted to make a video on it because kind of back in the day when this game came out and everybody was working their way through the levels, a lot of people, me included, seen this truck and thought, yeah, that looks like a beast, I want to get that. And then I got it, it kept catching its belly on everything, and then I soon sold it, and it kinda had its moment. It came and went, that's what she said. And yeah, they have actually, in quotes, fixed it. And yeah, so I just wanted to do a bit of gameplay on it. Like, some people don't even know that it's been fixed. It wasn't really like, you know, say like the GMC, they've added all-wheel drive. They've not added or taken anything away from this. They've just, you can kind of tell later, forget that ice because it's a separate issue with the ice, not really this truck. Yeah, they've kind of, I was looking when I was going over some things earlier, and they've obviously made like the bottom edge of that skid plate to where it looks like it clips through things rather than catching on things. So yeah, I'd just like to say, thought I'd give it a go, see how it does in the ice. I'm going to go and do that Frozen in Time mission. Ironically, the reason I chose the Frozen in Time mission is because every goddamn time I'm playing this game, it keeps saying, no matter what map I'm on, do you want to do the Frozen in Time mission that's up in the top right corner? And then, yeah, I only just realised when I was editing this, like, the one time I'm actually doing the bloody mission, it isn't even there. First little go through the river, though, not looking too snazzy for it. The problem is, one of the problems is it's got the mud tyres, and for whatever reason, the mud tyres are just pretty crap in snow and everything. I know they're like, theoretically, I'm sure chain tyres are better than mud tyres in snow and ice, but I don't know. When you watch trucks in real life driving around on snow and stuff, like maybe some polished clear blue black ice frozen over lake or river like this, but generally speaking, like, you'd get a hell of a lot more grip in real life with something this size with those big fat chunky treaded tyres than you do in this game. And yeah, for these maps they really do need to add, I mean, preferably I'd like it if they just added a chained version of the tyres that are on there now, or even if it was one of the less treaded ones. It probably wouldn't really matter if they were chained anyway, but yeah, they need something. Like, a lot of the trucks, chained is good on the ice, but it breaks through all the icy bits and stuff. The muds are often wide enough that they do pretty well, but then yeah, they don't grip on half the stuff. I mean, this thing still punch through the ice, but the size and weight of it is probably getting on for one of the heaviest trucks in the game. I'm trying to think what it'd be between. There's this and the long nose Kolob. The P16, that's definitely one of the heavy. It probably is between those three, to be honest. I've noticed as well, this is like, I just wanted to, like, again, more of a chilled video, mention a couple of things. Going over the ice blocks, where like I am now, this is what I was trying to watch the revs for. I don't really know how or why, but I've noticed sometimes when you're driving over just these chunks of ice that are on the ground, it's like it drains all the power out of your truck. And I bet that's what I was looking for. Like, my revs are dropping right down. They are now I'm past the ice because of the speed cap. Because I'm in high-low, obviously whatever the speed limit is on the speedo at the minute, that's the speed cap, so I don't need as many revs to maintain this speed. But yeah, I've noticed it quite a few times. I can't remember what truck it was. It might have even been the Voron D, which has got plenty of power. I was driving across those chunks of ice the other day, and it literally just stopped my vehicle dead, even in auto, which is like, it didn't stall obviously because it can't stall, but it just stopped, and it was like, I had to mess around putting it in high-low and stuff for only like 10-20 seconds, and then I carried on driving, but it was definitely something a bit weird how it kind of zaps all your power. This little bit of ice as well, I suppose I'm basically on my way back to the cliffs. It seems to be a pretty popular, it's a good route because it's quite an easy route to get you roughly on the other side of the map. Can you see now though, I was trying to turn right, and I believe it's partly to do with that middle skid plate kind of chassis that goes down the middle underneath my truck, and also the fact that the mud tyres aren't as grippy, and I was trying to turn right the whole time out of that like ice I'd just fallen into, but I wasn't able to. It was just keeping me straight, and I believe, like I say, part of it is that kind of skid plate going underneath was sort of catching on the ice, and then yeah, I wasn't bumping up over it, it was just making me carry on, which luckily I got out of there before I just drove straight into the trees. But that could have I've noticed it a couple of times tonight where it's done that, so it's definitely like a bit of a characteristic of the truck. I've not tried the long nose Kolob all around here yet. I'm like I say, this obviously isn't a review video. I'm not hating on the thing. I've been driving it around tonight. I wouldn't say it's the best, I wouldn't say it's the worst, but I've only had a couple of hours with it. Tomorrow I'll try and I might do the review for it tomorrow, but yeah, when I get a nice early start. I've just been a bit busy the last couple of days and getting up a bit late, and then by the time I finish the video I go bed late and so on. I'm just trying to sort of catch back up with myself a little bit. Yeah, I'll give it a proper like 3, 4, 5 hours before I even do the review anyway, so I'll certainly know what it's all about by the time I get around to that. So you can see as I get here, I was like watching the front of it, and it's funny really, because considering the size of this thing, I mean the cab alone is bigger than the Lo4f, and yet I'd definitely say the Lo4f has better ground clearance than this thing. It's not horrific, and because it's got 8 big tyres, it can kind of pull itself. It's still not bad through places like this. Like quite a lot of things get a bit slowed down here, but yeah, I mean that's what I was looking like. You look at the ground clearance on the Lo4f that has the smallest wheels in the game, and then you look at the ground clearance on that thing. I wasn't even looking where I was going the entire time, but I told you, the Lo4f guides me. I've actually noticed since doing videos, I honestly look where I'm going about 10% of the time. Like even now, I believe I was looking around for my coffee and all sorts. I'm hardly ever watching the TV and actually, yeah, paying attention to what I'm doing. Hence why I end up hitting random trees and all sorts. Well, obviously, a lot of the time it's on purpose, especially with them trees. Goddamn sons of bitches. It struggled a little bit up there. Funny enough as well, I remember it's Dave's birthday today. So happy birthday to him. It was my other brother's birthday the other week, so a late happy birthday to him. I forgot to say it in the video. Yeah, I mean someone was saying I've been waiting like so much information and doing review videos, but someone said they want to hear more Dave stories, and it's like, the thing is with Dave stories, you gotta make sure the statute of limitations is up with Dave. Not that he's like, morally we're all fine, but honestly, like back in the day, some of his driving antics were questionable to say the least. And I don't know, I was just remembering one thing the other week, not the other week, well I was remembering it the other week. This was like, how old? I don't know, 12 years ago, something like that. Basically we were driving home, and Dave, as I've said before, we're all competitive with each other, but me and Adam aren't really bothered. But Dave has to race or do anything. If you tried tying your shoelaces up, he'd race you at tying your shoelaces. Even if you weren't aware there was currently a shoelace race going on, there would be in Dave's mind. And when we used to drive anywhere, it was like Dave had to be first, otherwise some form of, to be honest, dangerous overtaking manoeuvre would take place, which I didn't like, wasn't keen on, used to make me like, ugh, wince as you see it. And yeah, it ain't my thing. Like, I don't like fucking around on the road, but anyway, I'm not his dad. Yeah, I don't agree with it. Don't go racing around like an idiot, but yeah, Dave took his chances. And anyway, we were driving along the motorway, the M1, the busiest motorway in England. It was in the afternoon sometime. There was pretty heavy traffic, not crazy, but there was definitely like other cars around. And yeah, Dave being Dave, he had to race. So we were in the tranny van, and we, to be fair, we do encourage him a little bit, because again, we just know it eats a part of his soul if he doesn't win some imaginary race. So yeah, we were in the tranny van going about 90-95. Dave was in front of us going about 90-95, and it just so happened that when we were behind him, like dragging, getting the odd slipstream, we could basically go identical speeds, but whatever we tried, we just couldn't overtake the fucker. Not that we particularly wanted to, we just knew it'd be funny watching Dave try and get back past us because he just has to. So anyway, we're going along, and I seen a sign say service is half a mile. So I said to Ad, I was like, go on, stick the indicator on, and he'll think we're fucking going in the services. And then when he pulls off the slip road, stick your indicator off, and we'll drive past him, we'll stick the fucking fingers up at him or something. So yeah, bang the indicator on. This, by the way, I don't know how well it'll translate on video, but it is one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. Like, I genuinely nearly passed out from laughing. The only time I can ever remember where I panicked because I was about to black out, I think, from not breathing. Yeah, Dave peeled off the fucking motorway because we stuck the indicator on. And straight away, we put the indicator off, started trying to get level with him, obviously because the slip road goes off to the left. It was like, we started to get a bit more level with him. I was pissing myself in the window, laughing at him, sticking the fingers up, and yeah, just generally taking the piss. So we carried on, and then a hedge appears, and Dave just disappears behind the hedge. We're on the motorway, and it's like, yes, we got him. We made him pull off into the services. I was looking around for my phone, like, I'll ring him and take the piss. Like, what are you going services for, dickhead? Grabs a can of fucking Red Bull or something while you're in there. Yeah, before I could even find my phone to ring him, the hedge coming down the slip road on the way back on the motorway, suddenly see a Fiesta roof appear from nowhere, and what can only be described as Dave's forehead trying to peek over the hedge. I mean, yeah, if you're wondering, he had just gone 95 through a petrol station on a motorway services on the busiest motorway in England, and then was now rejoining the motorway at 95 and wasn't even looking where he was going because he was trying to peek over the hedge to see if we were in the lead in an imaginary race that only exists in Dave's mind, but we kind of knew it would exist in his mind. And yeah, honestly, like straight out of some Mr. Bean sketch or something, he comes flying down the slip road, and he joined the motorway in front of us. I swear to God, he hadn't lost an inch, he hadn't gained an inch, he was just exactly the same place that he pulled off the motorway. And like I said, when it dawned on me and Adam that he'd just gone 95 through a petrol station, again, absolutely don't condone it, but I genuinely, just the image in my head of knowing what a Dave is, like, I just honestly could not stop laughing. And even after he joined the motorway, all he was doing was trying to look in his rearview mirror, because he needed to know where we were. Like, no shits to give about, yeah, a very busy motorway going almost 100. That's the thing with England. I mean, no one will really admit it, but the motorways, you're supposed to go 70 mile an hour. If you get caught going over 100 mile an hour, you lose your licence. If you get caught going under 100 mile an hour, you get 3 points. So the unofficial speed limit on the motorway is about 99.5 if you can. And that's what everybody does, really. Even the cops do it. I've overtook cops going about 85 on the motorway, and they don't give a shit. They're going about 80 odd in the slow lane, so generally they don't really care, as long as you're going safe for the road conditions, which I wouldn't at all times say Dave would be. But yeah, like I said, that's why you kind of need to just make sure that the statute of limitations is up with some of Dave's stories, because yeah, back in the day, he does drive better now, I'll admit, but yeah, when he was just young, he was, yeah, far too mental in the car. I mean, look at the goddamn loaf. It's a professional. I mean, Dave's just one of them jammy people. Like, the other month, he basically took the police, like the entire police, to court, because, and normally, I would say, yeah, Dave did this. He got a speeding ticket And again, every other time, he'd start going, well, what happened was, and it's like, bullshit, you got a speeding ticket. But this time, he was genuinely, I've seen Dave try and bullshit, and I've seen him tell the truth. He was telling the truth. He really didn't get this speeding ticket, like, even he's got kids and that, he was picking up from school, and so it was like, it was nowhere near the area or anything at the time, so it was definitely not him for once. And obviously someone had just copied his number plates. Most likely, anyway, I should imagine. Like, it happens more than you think, to be honest. Stick someone else's number plates on the car. You've now technically got insurance and everything as far as any police cameras think. But yeah, it's just people with like no insurance that are just driving around without getting hassled because their plates look legit. Yeah, so Dave was taking the police to court, and I remember my mum come around about a month ago and she was like, well, a bit stressed today. I was like, why? And she said, oh, Dave's going bloody court, innit? And I was like, so, it said Dave, like, he'll walk in there and trip over or something and sue him for £1 million. Like, the police have no idea what they've just opened themselves up to. Like, they ain't going to be able to handle a full-blown Dave. And then, yeah, later on, like, rang me mum. How'd it go? Yeah, he won. I thought so. Like, of course he did. He's a goddamn Dave. Yeah, so, I mean, that's just one of many stories with Dave. There's plenty more. Plenty more. But I'll save them for another time. As for this thing, as you can see, it's not that great through ice. It's always going to break through, which I'm fine with. Can you see how there's like a line of ice in the middle? I know where my tyres haven't crushed it, but it's like where the skid plate is just shoving the ice straight down, and you can like still see a nice neat line of ice between me, rather than it all like dredging it up. I got out there eventually, but I did need to use some winches. I mean, I'm not strictly saying that it's all this truck's fault. Like, the ice is bloody fun, there's absolutely no doubt about it. But I do think they need to give us some truck equipment that is more prepared for the ice, or they just need to up the strength of the tyres. And you can see there, those rocks, I could not get over them with this Kolob. So I knew in my own head this would be fine, but I just needed to I needed to do it and show it. And yeah, Lo4f gets over no problem. I mean, I know it is a goddamn horse of a vehicle, it'd get over those ones to the right of me, but still, like, the size of this thing is smaller than the cab on this, and yeah, this gets stuck on stones. While I was telling the Dave story, there was another bit there where I got stuck on some rocks as well and I had to winch myself over. Once you go in though, it has got some nice old grip in the ground. Especially, again, like, I like mud tyres on snow, but they just suck on icy rocks and ice. Like, not even not great, it's like they're shit on ice and icy rocks. They just have zero grip. And I honestly, like, I know a lot of people kind of swear by those numbers that people pulled from the game to do with like the tyre stats. I honestly don't believe that's the full picture. As you've seen, I managed to get a faster time with chain tyres on the Drowned Lands container contest with the Taiga than I was able to with the muds, and consistently as well, and I wouldn't have called that. And a lot of people said just before I made that video, oh yeah, well the stats say that the muds are better, and it's like, I know and I agree that the stats say the muds are better, but when you actually, like, considering Drowned Lands is a pure muddy map, and yet I'm getting faster times with the chain tyres over muds. Like, my personal belief, I don't know if this is true, so don't quote me on it as such, but this is my gut feeling. Whoever developed the chain tyres basically copied and pasted the muds over. For most, you'll notice most chain tyres are just muds with chains on them. And I believe a developer or whatever copied and pasted the muds over, added some chains on, adjusted the statistics to make them like whatever they are in chained, and then they probably added a few, say, little bonuses like it grips up icy rocks better. And then I reckon for whatever reason, either the code isn't completing properly or something's going wrong, and it's kind of reverting the chain tyres back to the mud stats, but it's still keeping some kind of bonuses. And I do agree, like, there is in certain bits of snow, mud tyres do have the edge, Like, I do prefer mud tyres in snow, but not by much, not by enough to where a lot of the time, like, if this had chained as an option, I would use chained. So, I'm finally here. Took longer than I thought, about 20 minutes just to get here. There's like a very rudimentary line I drew. Obviously it's this, yeah, frozen in time. There it is now in the top right hand corner. You basically got to head to this old abandoned village, and you've got to reach 4 sort of, I don't know, checkpoints, like just 4 locations that you've got to drive up to. I mean, I suppose the premise of the mission is like it's some old abandoned village, and somebody's asked you if you can go and check it out and see what state the place is in. I'll drop the loaf off there because I'm basically just going to drive here and turn round. I don't believe I leave every little bit of this in, because it is honestly quite a long and slow part of the mission. This is doing alright so far though. This is where I think Muds, particularly this thing weighs a lot, is doing alright in this snow at the minute. I was probably just grabbing me coffee then. But I do believe right now, in the same situation, the P16 would probably drive across that bit. P16 is strangely good in snow for just a rear-wheel drive truck that's forced to have off-road, I believe, tyres. And yeah, like I say, no all-wheel drive or anything. Because it weighs so much, it just plants itself into the ground, and it's like, it creates its own grip with its own weight. And this, in some situations, is yeah, pretty similar really. It's definitely a hell of a weighty truck. So I've got my loaf back, now we're going for the next one. And as you've seen as I was talking in the background, so far the loaf had to flip this. I tipped it over, and yeah, I tried to hook the loaf on a rock and pull it over like normal ways. The chassis on this and the long nose Kolob is ridiculously, like, it is ridiculously heavy. Also, just to point out, the reason I've got the white loaf on me is because I've got the autonomous winch on this loaf, and that's why I didn't bring the other loaf, because I just wanted to keep the advanced winch on my black loaf, because I always use that loaf, and otherwise I'll get somewhere tomorrow or whatever and be like, oh yeah, shit, I put the autonomous one on. So yeah, that's why I got this loaf. This was my wholemeal loaf. Now he's a white loaf. Best thing since sliced bread. Yeah, I wanted to bring the autonomous, and to be honest, when I rolled the Kolob, it was a perfect example about 10 minutes ago, whenever it was, because I needed the autonomous to get the loaf back on its wheels. That's what I was worried about. That's, again, why I originally switched. I believe at the very start of the video, if you've seen, I did have my OG loaf, and then I was like, actually, recover that, bring this one, and that was why, because I wanted to sit on the back of the Kolob with a loaf, which sits there very nicely, but I knew if I did roll this, it was going to try and sit on the loaf, and it'll, yeah, both of them will have a stalled engine. I mean, look at it. I switched the loaf to reverse out the way, switched back to the Kolob, and for no apparent reason, it like pinged me off the right hand side mud bank or something, bounced me into that tree, and then pinged me off to, yeah, tipped over on my side. And of course, that's why you bring yourself a horse of a vehicle. Sometimes I would reverse up to the tree, but to be honest, recently I've been getting pretty lazy and just parking sideways. It works pretty goddamn well. I mean, it's basically a flat side. As long as you've... If I start slipping out to the back, I can accelerate forward now and so on. But the reason I wanted to leave this in and show you is because this is like... seems to be like a fundamental characteristic of the winches recently. As you can see, I'm pulling, and it's not pulling as strong as the advanced winch would, because it's, again, the autonomous. It's just like a battery-powered winch. But as you can see, as I keep letting go of the winch and putting it back on, and you'll hear in a second, I just keep tapping it on and off. And you see how it's inching forward? It's basically like the tension isn't building on the winches still. It does a bit, but not like it used to. If I held this on back in the day, it'd near enough pull that tree over to where if I release it, it'd ping the Kolob like back over the other side of the little valley. But now it just doesn't build tension. But then when you let go of the winch, it's like it dumps a little bit of tension back into it. So if you sit there tapping the winch on and off, on and off, on and off, it kind of like, essentially, yeah, just keeps pulling it little bit by little bit and it seems to work better than just holding it on flat out at the minute. And luckily I drove out of there, got the Kolob caught on that tree, but of course the odd horse is always there when you need him. So yeah, got the Kolob out, Lo4f approved of course. Started heading forward. Obviously, main reason really I brought the Lo4f was for extra fuel. I nearly brought a fuel trailer with me. The only reason I wanted to see if I could get here is one, to kind of judge for myself how decent this thing is on fuel, and secondly, because once I'm here, if I had a scout fuel trailer, I'm either going to do one or two things: abandon it and then just leave it, and I've lost, I don't know, 4 or 5 grand, whatever they cost, or I'd then have to drive all the way back to the garage, which, as you can see, took me 20 odd minutes to get here. Don't really fancy spending 20 minutes just to drive a scout fuel trailer back. So yeah, that's why I bring the Lo4f. It's got a roof rack on. It doesn't hold a load of fuel, it only holds 120 litres. It's also got 80 of its own litres. But yeah, it doesn't hold shitloads, but it's a start. Obviously the repairs is nice, 300 repairs. I do think though, with this Lo4f, it's a van, like, you should be able to put some either repairs or fuel in the back of the van. Like, why would you stack everything on the roof? I mean, yeah, for driving purposes, I don't like the roof rack on, because it's like, it's bugged in some way. I've done a video on it, and it slows all the, like, half the scouts down anyway, a good half of them. And obviously, it also affects the handling characteristics a bit. It's a little bit more top heavy. It ain't really that much of an issue with the Lo4f, if I'm honest, but nonetheless, it is definitely slightly more top heavy. So that's another thing I just wanted to mention. With a little vehicle like the Lo4f, I was able to winch to that tree. And as any of you probably know, if I even touched that tree with the winch from the Kolob, it'd basically snap out the ground before I've even, like, started hoovering the winch in. I believe it was around the time of the Rift update, they made the trees even weaker, which, to be honest, I think is the wrong decision, and they need to put them back to how they were, because, right, at the minute, if I was to select my winch properly, it'll light up about 80 goddamn winch points around me, and yet, I don't know, 60 of them are like trees that'll just snap out of the ground instantly. Again, not with a Lo4f, because it's just so light, it doesn't really break them smaller trees, but any normal truck, you attempt to winch to something and it's just like, break it, next one, break it, next one, break it, and it's like, you get to the point where it's just like, don't even offer me the fucking tree if it's just going to break in half a second. Like, in real life, I would never choose a tree with a ½ an inch bloody trunk thickness. It's like, I'd go for some big massive tree. However, I got there, look at it, 2 grand. I was like, you shitting me? This thing just took me half an hour to do. I could have earned 2 grand in like a minute on that, what's it, Smithfield Dam contest. So I started trying to see if I could bring this, because when I mentioned the other day that I got stuck in some pretty deep snow with the Dolphin, I didn't actually get stuck, but I was going like 1 mile an hour. It was like, I would class it as stuck. It was certainly slower than I was prepared to accept, so I started winching just to everything and dragging myself through the snow. Yeah, started bringing this, weaving my way through there. That's where, to be honest, this road is like quite flat, and I will say the Lo4f isn't great in deep snow. It's fine on shallow snow, as most things are, but obviously, yeah, it's got the smallest tyres. It will go across deep snow. It's just not very far. I wouldn't recommend it. And this is basically where I got stuck. I mean, look at that. That is a good line that the Lo4f left. The Lo4f doesn't do snow clearances, but if he did, it'd probably be the best in the world. This is roughly like about another truck length ahead is where I officially would say I got stuck in the Dolphin, but as I said, it wasn't actually stuck. But yeah, I just wanted to mention as well, I gave this 95 litres of fuel from the Lo4f. And when I drove this thing to like just behind the Lo4f then, where I'd have to complete the mission, it only had 99 litres left, so I only would have had 4 litres left, and I would have had to have missed one of the checkpoints. So long story short, if I'd brought this without the Lo4f, other than the fact the Lo4f had to rescue it twice, yeah, I would have had to have recovered to garage at least twice, and then I ended up, I suppose, I believe you can only put like a saddle high on the back of this. There's no like fuel tank you can add or anything, so I would have ended up either having to winch a scout fuel trailer with me anyway, or a big trailer. And as you can see there, the Kolob got stuck. But I did notice when I was in low, it was less than 10 litres a minute. In high-low, it was about 20 litres a minute, and yeah, I wasn't going any faster, so it's definitely one that feels it. You see, light snow, not like the bit before, the loaf goes fine. I'm on the road, I was just seeing for myself how much further I could get across the map with like a tiny bit of fuel left. Jumped off there, it's a goddamn horse of a vehicle. And yeah, I mean in the end I potted it. I didn't really know what to do now, I wasn't heading anywhere in particular. I ran out of fuel and I recovered. So last one, this was basically the end of the video, but I wanted to leave this in, there's a couple of reasons why, you'll see. So I was on my way to do this. You got to pick up these 2 cabins and deliver them somewhere. I thought, that's fair enough, not too hard. I brought some metal beams with me, not because I needed them, just to make sure I had enough room left in my trailer without having to mess around moving the loaf. Apologies for the glitch there, it's a tiny glitch, but look, while I'm trying to lift this crane, since, I don't know, the last week if that, it just keeps extending itself to full extension when I'm not telling it to, and then it can't handle holding anything at full extension and it drops back down to the ground. That noise you can hear now with nothing happening, that is me trying to retract the crane, and just, I don't know what the hell is wrong with it. They've fucked around with it somehow and broke it. And yeah, it's not impossible to use, but as you can see, what I basically did was park the trailer next to the cabin, disconnect the Dolphin, position myself a bit better, reconnect the trailer, and then I was loading this in, was going in now, and I was like, oh, that's not really in properly, but it wasn't offering me the chance to pack cargo. So I just thought, now well, I'll get it a bit further onto the trailer, just in case it wants to tip off. But that's how I got around it, like dragging the thing sideways up onto the trailer. And about now, I was like, hang on a minute, the thing's on goddamn sleds. It's like got little skis on it. Just checking, like it really has. Oh my god, abandoned mission immediately. I need to see if I can fly it. I don't know why, if I'm honest. I needed to know. I mean, kids, if you're wondering, this is how Santa, they don't tell you this in the nursery rhymes, but he has a little help from Dolphin and Loaf. We get him flying. I dropped it on purpose then, because I wanted to see if it'd ski, whether it's sideways or not, or if it'd dig in. It dug in. So anyway, reversing up to it now, just before I got the crane, I was like, do you know what, I'll just check the winch. Right, I was like, oh my god, can I? Oh yes I can. I mean, what would you call it when it's like enjoyment but you're kind of panicking? Like, I didn't really know what I was doing now. All I needed to know is I had to attach a winch to it and drive forward as fast as I could immediately. But yeah, it's kind of panic enjoyment was just all I knew. I was having the time of my life and I need to head somewhere. That's why I wanted to show you this, because to save any of you guys that haven't done that mission yet, it's called, I can't even see it, Cabin Fever. Yeah, I brought a semi-trailer, etc, etc. You don't need any trailers, you can winch it like a sledge. So I abandoned doing this mission in the end. I just drove it around like a sledge for a bit, because once I deliver it, they're gone. I don't know how to get another one, and I still need to like put a loaf on top and see how well I can sledge a loaf and all sorts of stuff. So for now, I'm not going to complete this mission, but obviously that was the original plan. Like, ho ho ho, Loaf, check me and my bloody sledge out. Killed a tree, good times were had by all. And that's about it. Posed for a little thumbnail in front of the Aurora. I mean, look at it. We're winching a sledge, a cabin sledge. Anyway, that's about it for today. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon.